The forgotten shelter. The garden had always felt strangely quiet. In 1968, a young couple named Richard and Helen Marsh bought a piece of overgrown land on the edge of a quiet English village just outside of Canterbury. The price was cheap, and the location was charming. Rolling green beyond the hedges, an apple orchard nearby, and a clear view of the stars at night. Locals said the land had stood empty since the war, but no one seemed to remember why. It wasn't until Richard began digging the footings for their new home that he struck metal. At first, he thought it was old piping, or perhaps the frame of a forgotten vehicle. But as he and Helen worked to uncover more, they realized it was something else entirely. A rusted iron hatch, bolted shut and buried beneath years of soil and moss. The markings were barely legible, but one word stood out: shelter. They unearthed the entrance over the weekend. It took effort, prying and heaving with crowbars, until the hatch gave a deep metallic groan and creaked open, exhaling a breath of stale, underground air. A ladder descended into darkness. Torchlight revealed the cramped interior. Rusted beds, rotting supplies, old tea tins and tins of biscuits turned to dust. But in the far corner, behind a stack of collapsed timbers, they found something neither of them could explain. A skeleton, partially buried under rubble, with a faded floral dress still clinging to the frame. Time had almost consumed her, but not quite. Clutched in her hand was a locket, still intact, with a photograph of a soldier in uniform. The authorities were called. Forensics came and went. The body was confirmed as female, likely late 20s or early 30s, and had been there for over 2 decades. No signs of foul play. No records matched her. The locket was kept, but no one could identify the man in the photo. It was simply noted, "Unknown woman, World War II era." The house was built over the shelter, the entrance sealed and covered. But from the first night they moved in, something changed. Doors opened by themselves. Footsteps creaked up the stairs when no one was there. Helen heard weeping in the middle of the night, always coming from beneath the floor. Richard woke more than once to find the attic door swinging open, though it had been bolted shut. One night, Helen awoke to see a figure at the end of the bed. A woman, pale, transparent, staring silently, holding something in her hand. The locket. And then, just as suddenly, she was gone. Terrified but deeply moved, Helen began to dig. She went to the local parish, then to the war archives, searching names, land deeds, anything to tie the woman to the land. After weeks, she found a single line in a wartime registry. Arthur Granger, reported missing in action, 1944, repatriated, 1945, returned to family home, destroyed during Blitz, wife, Eleanor Granger, unaccounted for. The address matched their land. Arthur Granger had returned home after the war, only to find his house reduced to rubble and no sign of Eleanor. Neighbours had either died, moved, or forgotten the details. Records showed he had searched for her until his death in 1956, alone and broken-hearted, eventually buried in a small cemetery on the other side of the village. Helen and Richard visited the grave, simple, weather-worn, but still tended. And that night, the figure returned. This time, the woman stood at the end of the bed and whispered softly, "With him. Please." The next morning, Helen made arrangements. Eleanor's remains were carefully exhumed and buried beside Arthur Granger with a new headstone carved for both. The locket, polished and protected, was placed inside the coffin with her. From that day on, the house was silent, peaceful. The garden bloomed more than it ever had. Birds returned. The quiet no longer felt strange. It felt safe, like someone was watching over them. Grateful. The story never made the papers. But now, when people visit the Marsh home, they sometimes pause in the garden and say, "It feels like something good happened here, like someone finally came home."
Hey there, if you enjoyed this video please give it a like and subscribe. It only takes a few clicks and means a lot to me. Thank you.